Okay, Bad Dad Nomad. Here's a little remake of the same thing we just talked about, and with some visuals, right? So as the team starts to trickle in, they could do some rondos, right? So Doug would have usually the pattern was if once we got 3 or 4 people, right? They'd be, I guess, preparing, getting their stuff on the side of the field, and then once we'd have, let's say, 4 people ready, we'd start doing 1v3. So one person would be in the middle, and then you'd have 3 people kind of just keeping the ball away from them, and then 4 people or 5 people would make it now 4v1, and then once we got ideally, you'd start to get 5v2 was normally how many people were in the mini. It's a mini warm-up keep away game, right? You really want to keep the people who are keeping the ball away from the players in the middle. You want them to have it to be a very tight area, just because it should be very light, right? It shouldn't be intense. It's more about kind of getting your reflexes up, right? Fast passes between the players on the outside, and just kind of everyone. It almost turns into a bonding experience, right? Because sometimes you get a meg, or sometimes you get some good play, and it just starts to get people warmed up physically and mentally. So I think that's something that you could do every. Well, I don't think that's what you could do every practice. That's just what we did every practice. So to your question, right? This is the format of what we did literally every practice, and I played under Coach Nevins for maybe 2.5 years, close to 3 years, and for every so I did. Out of a 1 year, we had at least maybe 2 to 3 practices a week, and played either a tournament or a game every weekend. So you could say 52 weeks in a year. So maybe I had close to 200 to 250 practices with Coach Nevins, and this is the routine we use every time. And after thinking about what's the most important thing out of all of these things, I want to start with the last one, because I think this is going to, let's say you have a restriction of time, or you're aware that could be inclement weather, and you need to cut the session short. If you could only focus on one thing out of possession, finishing a goal, crossing and finishing, and playing the big goals, or let's say you're looking for just a fun practice and to end the season, or maybe you're even looking for, if you want to look for a great way to run a tryout in an effortless way, to see which players are stronger than the others, to really seek the hierarchy of the team. What you can do is so the key to playing to big goals is you want to split the team up into 3. And why this is so important is because if you have 2 teams play against each other, and there's someone scores, there's nothing gained and nothing lost. But when you split the team up into 3, what happens is it raises the intensity level of the entire team, because when you're scrimmaging, it creates something to play for. You're playing for, it's a status, right? It's status games. You want to knock off the other team, so there's bragging rights of the team that stays on. And it kind of brings out the true competitiveness of players, because the most competitive player will really be harping on the other players if people on each team let them down, right? So what you'll have is the strongest players will emerge within each team. So that's why, and it's just it's rapid fire goal scoring and rapid transitions from offense to defense. Okay, so let's say you have. So let's go right to it. If you're playing to big goals, what you want to do is, right, let's say this is your half of the field. Let's say you have access to half of a full soccer field. If you have 2 goals, you bring the goal in very close. So you could call it, you're playing on maybe a third of the field, and you're gonna bring the sidelines in, the cone line in. So maybe it's like this. Right, you use the natural lines of the 18, and you want to start to use natural lines when you're setting up possession finishing on goal, crossing and finishing, or playing in big goals, because you have limited time to run your hour and a half practice session. So you really have to be surgical with your movements, and these little things can add up against you. Right? You figure you have a season long with these players, and if you spend a majority of that time, right, let's say it takes 5 or 10 minutes just to set a cone line every practice, because you're making it more difficult. Well, if you start to use the natural lines, you'll just save yourself more. You'll save yourself time to just getting right to playing and having fun. So you use a natural cone line, the natural border of the 18. You extend it out to here. So that means when players surround the field, you could have, depending on how many numbers, you could have players. So you could go 2 on this side, right? 2 on the big ends, 2 on this big end, and then you have players on the baseline. And all those players have 1 touch, and they're playing neutral players, right? Because you have the players on the team. One team's defending this goal, and 1 player's defending this goal. Let's say you don't have access to big goals. Let's say you don't have access to big goals. Hello, puppy. If you don't have access to big goals, what you can do is you can make small gates, right? So you could say, okay, I'm gonna put a gate. Okay, where's our field? Our field is right. 18's there. What you can do is let's say you don't have that big goal, access to any big goals. You could create a cone gate here. So put 1 cone here and 1 cone there. So this is 1 gate, and then you put 1 cone gate here. That's a second gate, and then you put 1 cone gate here. So then the other team is defending these cones. And what is going to happen is if this team tries to attack this goal, what's going to happen is you're going to have players on the defensive who are defending it. They're going to bunch their players up. So then what the fun thing about, and actually a benefit to having no goals, is that this is going to force the attacking team to switch the point of attack rapidly here, because now they're trying to get a mismatch, right? Let's say there's only 1 defender here, because now they bunched up that side. So it's going to challenge your attackers to switch the point of attack to this side to create a 2v1 and then finish on one of the gates, right? So that could be an option. So back to playing. If you have a not even numbers, right? Let's say you have 2 goalkeepers. You have 2 goalkeepers, and then you got, let's just say, 15 or let's say 16 field players. So you can't make 3 teams of 5, but you can have, if you put the 16th player as a neutral player who plays for both teams all the time, then that makes it so that you could have 3 teams of 5, right? So that's just an example of how you can manage numbers. Okay. So just to recap, if you could only do one of these things at practice, this would be the one to play. This would be the one to play the whole practice, because you're getting possession, you're getting finishing on goal, you're getting crossing and finishing, right? So this possession, finishing on goal, crossing, finishing are the it's like if you think about player development, in my mind, the fundamentals for a player are breathing, movement, dribbling, and then I break passing and shooting into juggling, because you could say juggling is rhythmic passing, or you could say juggling is rhythmic shooting. So just like those are the fundamentals of a player's skills, and there's more things, right? You could say there's your ability to, you could say, shielding's important, or you could say jockeying, right? Being able to defend, or you could say, there's a lot of fundamental skills, but I think those are the core. And so this is like the core. These are the core skills for team play, right? Keeping the ball, finishing on goal, crossing, finishing. That's why I think playing to goal is the most important if you could only choose one, because it's all these things combined. Okay. Possession. So let's pretend like all this is not here, right? So you have now your full field. For a possession game, you'll improve in this over time, but it's how to your biggest challenge is just create the which area the players are playing in. So if you got a lot of players, you could create a cone line that goes right here. That's a cone line. So now you have this sideline, halfway line, cone line, 18. And if you have significant amount of players, right, you got a lot of players, then you could just cone off here, and you could cone off here. Boom, you have this area, right? So you want the players to be in an area that's right. If you have an 8v8, if you got 16 field players, or even include your goalie in possession game, 16 players in that area, that's a nice area that they could play in. You don't want to have the area too small where they cannot operate at all, right? So some coaches will kind of try to take this to an extreme. They'll create a grid where this is the grid, and it's like way too small, where players can't even connect 3 passes, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the possession game. So in the beginning, you'll feel, if as long as players can get 4 to 5 passes together with an unlimited touch, I would say that's a good. That means you've done your job correctly, because that means players can play. That means the game isn't too one-sided, right? Because it should be pretty even, especially if you break the teams up evenly. And a lot of coaches spend a lot of time thinking about how to split the teams up instead of making it a little bit random. So players, I think coaches spend too much time trying to put certain players together instead of just letting them play in a free possession game. It's almost like they'll put their preferential starting lineup of players on one team, and then they'll put and then they won't care about who's ever's left. And I think this actually ruins the whole point of the possession game. I think you should make the teams random and then just let the teams fight it out in the possession game. Okay, finish on goal. I gotta read. Well, screw it. So okay, finish on goal. You have your coach, right? You're the coach, and the line starts 10 steps, right? I said 10 steps above the 18. So this is where you start. You have your line of players here. They line up. They all have a ball, and then they run as fast as they can towards the goal, and then they finish on the side netting here and here. That's Slotsville. And then so you think 10 minutes of this, rapid fire, no whistle, and then you tell your goalkeepers, come in and out of the goal if possible. Like, it's psychologically, it's hard if you're a goalkeeper, especially youth goalkeeper, and you're just getting shots blasted at your goal as hard as possible, right? 10 shots back to back and you haven't saved one. As a goalkeeper, it's pretty, some players take themselves more serious than others. So even one goal against them, they're kind of they're inside their shoes. So you got to tell them, listen, this is a finishing drill. You come in and out of goal at your leisure. So, and you just got to tell them to decide, right? Because you're focusing on encouraging the team and encouraging great finishes on net. So then, let's say you have 10 minutes, right? You could call this 10 to 15 minutes of possession. Call it 15, right? So 15, 15, 15, 15, including a warm-up and some team warm-up there. That's an hour right there, easy, right? This makes up an hour. So finish on goal, you say the first 10 minutes is Slotsville, right? That's what Coach Nevins called Slotsville, slotting the ball in the side netting. Then he'd do about 5 minutes of Volleysville. So you, the coach, is facing the goal, and your players, they hand you the ball, and then now they're facing towards you, and you have to throw the ball kind of high in the air. It's gonna bounce, and then they take a one-time volley right on goal. So you call it 10 minutes. So you call it 10 minutes of Slotsville, 5 minutes Volleysville. Then you go right into crossing and finishing. So this is one crossing line. You have maybe 3 or 4 players here. Then you have your 2 finishing lines in the middle. That's here and here, right? So 2 crossing lines, 1 crossing line right side here, 1 crossing line this side. So this player has the ball. They start to drill. They dribble. It's a slightly diagonal run, and you want the run to be slightly diagonal so that it's easy for them to cross the ball. And then these 2 lines, they crisscross, right? They run this way, they run this way, and finish on goal approximately in this area. Then, right, so this player runs crisscross here, this player runs crisscross here, and then one of them finishes on goal. And then you could see how I set up the lines. These 2 crossing lines are slightly in front of the finishing lines, right? So now this line goes, right? That line went. Now this line goes. Dribble, right? Fast dribble up the line. You could, because in the game they're gonna have a player chasing them or trying to defend against them. So it's a, you know, this is gameplay. So they're running at full speed up the line, hard driven ball on the ground, or they just do a cross of any. Right, they just cross it in however they like, and then they finish on goal. Boom. And then you might need, right, like I said before, 2 to 3 times you stop the drill to recalibrate the lines and recalibrate goals. And then you have all the lines rotating. So you could do, I don't know, these, you know, you just have them rotate. You just tell everyone to rotate after they go through their line, right? And then just practicing repetitions between crossing and finishing. And then boom, playing a big goals, and that's it, right? So it's like you're gonna see your players. Not only is this so much fun. I mean, I'm making this video. The last time Doug coached me was in 2009, and it's now 2024. So what's the math on that? It's like it was a kind of a long time ago, and I'm still remember this like it was yesterday because it was just so much fun. Because it's just, I mean, the possession game, that's fun. Finish on goal, that's fun. Cross and finishing, that's a lot of fun. And then playing the big goals. I mean, I would just live for these practices. I really would. So if you just do this every time, every single practice, you're going to get great results because it's simple and it's effective and fun. So the thing I think a lot of coaches will mess up if they're running this practice, they're going to use, they'll use a whistle. I don't like that. Coach Nevins never used a whistle. Something they might mess up is they would. So one thing Coach Doug would do really good is that he would really celebrate great goals, great spells of play. If one team kept the ball in the air away from the other team for more than 2 or 3 passes, he would scream out. He would scream "tantalisis," right, to tantalize, because it was an elegant play, but in the air, which was quite challenging. So being the most energetic person at practice can really elevate your team, because your team can feed off that energy. So the way that some coaches is ruin that is they publicly criticize the negatives of their team instead of celebrating the positives. So I think the phrase goes, praise in public, criticize in private, something like that. So I think that's something relevant. And then team warm up, right? You want to make sure teams are doing the fundamentals. So and instilling, I'm not sure how old your team is, but the team warm-up is important just because you are literally warming up your muscles, tendons, and ligaments. And if you want to have a season with, it's like teams who avoid team warm-up will have more injuries than teams that don't, because it's just science. You need to warm up your muscles and tendons and ligaments so that you can use them. It's like in every single age group on teams I've been in, I've seen players injure themselves because the first thing they do is they go to take hard shots on goal without warming their body up. And maybe you could get away with that when you're 5, 6, 7, but as you grow older, if you haven't really developed your own personal warm-up or team warm-up, you personally or your team is going to pay the consequences for that. So making sure teams have a simple warm-up and then a simple cool down. You could search ROKP. That's Ben Patrick. ROKP stands for reversing out of knee pain, but it's really a full body. It's really a full body strengthening exercise and prehab exercise. So you could tell your players walk the length of the field in reverse, and then walk the length of the field back. So that's 100 yards, or maybe that's 200 yards in reverse to cool their body down, to lower their blood pressure, and then if you have time to stretch afterwards. So hopefully this diagram is kind of it's executable, that there's something that's taken away, and I'll send a link to I'll send a link of the same exact thing that I did maybe a couple months ago. So we'll see which one's better or which one's worse. So hopefully this helps. Reach out with any questions. All right, thank you.